Thank you everyone for joining in. I am Bhavya, and today we'll be having a discussion around emerging technologies, a journey into the Web3 space. So, if you're a technologist, you might be hearing about Web3 a lot nowadays, but the major challenge that arises is how do I get started onto it? So, before we start with how exactly can you plan your roadmap into the industry, I would like to address the very basics of understanding what essentially is Web3. Right? Web3 is called the next generation of internet that is decentralized, trustless, and secure. Some key concepts of Web3 include blockchain, smart contracts, and decentralized applications. The major difference between Web3 and Web 2.0, what we had, is ownership. So Web 2.0 had your own read and write kind of mechanism, whereas one additional mechanism that's involved in Web3 is owning your data. So you have control of where your data is being used and shared as well. As you look forward to get started into the industry, there are various paths that you can take. And we will today address a path for a technologist, first from a technologist perspective. However, if you are someone from a non-tech background, there are endless opportunities in that domain as well. You can go for something like a marketing or a community management role as well. To get started in the Web3 domain as a technologist, the major tools that you require would be a Web3 enabled browser, something like a Brave, and a digital wallet like MetaMask. Some examples of Web3 enabled applications would be Uniswap, some decentralized exchanges, OpenSea for marketplaces. I'm sure you might have heard of it all. So a browser and a MetaMask wallet would give you easy access into these technologies. And the way to explore any emerging technologies, be it Web3 or machine learning or AI, is to go hands-on with it and play around with it. That's how you decode what's more innovation that you can go for. There are different ways to participate in Web3 networks, such as joining a community and contributing to open source projects. Since it's a very nascent community, it's a very nascent space, there are very limited genuine resources available. There's a lot of information asymmetry in the domain, wherein arises the need to join communities. So a community like Women Who Code, there's Third Block, there's Meta School, there's a Polygon Developers community. These communities basically allow you a space where you can ask and explore all possibilities with the technologies, and if you should actually be using the technology at all. Because when you become a technologist in an emerging tech space, it's very essential to understand what that tech has to offer. I have seen a lot of projects that use blockchain only for the sake of it, only for the faff around it. However, it does not solve a real purpose. My principle while working with blockchain technology is to basically understand what does it solve for me. Does it help me scale a business? Does it help me reduce and optimize the business costs? Or does it help me in some security element of the business, right? So it's very essential we ask those questions to ourselves as technologists so as to ensure proper use of technology. There are a lot of use cases that Web3 seeks. There are certain people who still don't believe that Web3 would succeed, but I feel Web3 as a technology has a lot of potential. Some use cases, just to mention, as most of you would have heard as well, would be cryptocurrencies and digital assets such as Bitcoin and Ether and how they're used in Web3. The major application of Web3 lies in decentralized finance and its potential to disrupt the traditional finance through permissionless and transparent financial transactions. The current financial system is highly centralized and is highly regulated by government as well. We're not saying that in a decentralized environment we lose touch of the regulation, but this regulation and this trust is instead put in a community of users who are participants of the network rather than one elected body. This brings in more confidence since there are more stakeholders involved and there are participants involved. It also brings in a lot of financial inclusivity to the system. Another application, a very good one of Web3 would be non-fungible tokens and their role in digital ownership, provenance, and collectibles. NFTs are kind of tokens with different attributes that hold other value, right? Just to explain you better, a token or a cryptocurrency would be like a currency coin. If I have a dollar coin, no matter how it looks, the value, intrinsic value behind is still a dollar. However, if I have an art piece based on the colors and the patterns on it, its value differs. This can have huge implementations in the ticketing space, in the space of ownership of actual assets. being represented on a digital format. However, with emerging tech, there's another big thing that arises, that is the challenges of the technology, right? Similarly, we have a lot of challenges in the Web3 industry currently as well. Some major one to address would be scalability and network congestion, which can cause slow transaction and high gas fee. Since all of the system is not centralized and it's all based on bidding and community support, higher you bid, the higher chances of you to get your transaction through, right? That's what results in a higher gas fee to get your transaction through faster. There is also currently certain challenges in terms of user adoption and education, as Web3 is still in its early stages and requires technical knowledge to use efficiently. So, even though there's a lot of information available, people find it overwhelming because most of the information available is highly technical. Most of the people experiment with the tech space is essentially people like me and other budding researchers who kind of put information in a very biased format, which have high technical implications, right? That's one challenge when you get started into the Web3 space. However, you should how I started my journey was by joining communities and assigning a mentor, which made things easier for me. There is another challenge in terms of security and regulation challenges with the decentralized environment. This includes risk associated with smart contract vulnerabilities and lack of proper regulatory frameworks. Since the system is new and people don't essentially understand it, kind of problems like FTX arise. What happened with FTX majorly as well was that it was a centralized exchange regulating a decentralized currency. But the problem was not with the system, the problem was with people understanding it. The people who enter into the crypto space most of the times enter because of a fear of missing out and don't do their own research, which is a major challenge in the industry because, like any space, be it technical or non technical, it's very essential to understand what you're working with. So you understand it, the nuances and the risk associated with it. Moving forward, as we move towards discussing how to build a roadmap for a career in Web3 if you are a budding technologist. The easiest way to build a roadmap is to understand the niche and the qualities of blockchain that you want to work on. Some of you might be very good with coding, however, others might be good at forming an architecture around it. But how you get working on it is when you understand the core basics and the design basic idea behind the tech stack, right? So when you start building a roadmap, have this very clear that your roadmap will not be similar to any other. My journey would be very different from the one that you might have. When I started, there were only resources in terms of white paper available, and hence my resources in my trajectory was very different. Today, you have endless resources available, and that can cause confusion in terms of what to access and what to not. It's very essential you identify people you resonate with because the new emerging technologies are majorly based out of opinions of people rather than trusted facts. It's about how I see the technology and how another technologist see the technology, and it's very easy to change that because it's all about perception. So when you're building your own roadmap to Web3, understand what are your strengths and weaknesses from your prior experiences or your coding knowledge, and get into a structure of being very familiar with the introduction to Web3 career paths, including development, design, and project management. Understand what are the essential skills for a Web3 career, which are some of which may be blockchain development, smart contract programming, cryptography, UX design, UI design, market studies, crypto portfolios. Understand what interests you and what how can you form an opinion about it. With every emerging technology, it's very important to hold your opinion and back it by facts. Look for resources and educational opportunities to build career in Web3, such as online courses, hackathons, and conferences. If you are a student, I would advise not to go for a heavily paid course because it's mostly because of the asymmetry in demand and supply in the market. However, Web3 is a technology that is highly community driven, and most of the good resources are available open and free source. Moving forward, if we were to discuss the future of Web3, there is potential future developments in the Web3 space, such as the new blockchain technologies and interoperability between different Web3 networks. Web3 might not replace Web2, but there are certain applications that it will add value to. It will bring in a lot of decentralization in terms of bringing ownership of data back to the users. There's implications for the industries and society as a whole, including more equitable financial systems and new business models. But the transition won't be instant, right? It has to be a journey. It will be a smooth transition from the Web2 space to the Web3 space. And it's better if you get started now and you grow with it. To summarize all of it and to conclude, I would like to do a recap of some key points that we covered. It's that with every emerging technology, it's very essential to practice and explore. However, you might take inspiration, but don't fall into the trap of replicating a roadmap. Everyone's journey will be different into the emerging tech, and it's very normal to feel overwhelmed with this with the enormous amount of information available. But what you do is basically pick out one or two mentors that you align with and currently follow whatever makes sense to you. Whatever doesn't make sense to you, ask questions, ask endless questions, because the technology is new and all of us are learning. Even after 5 years in this space, I'm still learning. So it's okay to ask questions, it's okay to debate your point, because that's what brings through disruptive technologies. That is all from my end, and I'm open for any questions that you might have. Thank you so much for joining in today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bhavya.
Thank you, Rashmi.
Thank you. So can we get started with questions? Okay, great. So I have a question here. I have a question here. Are there specific communities you would recommend for a beginner coder, Bhavya? This is a question from Kit.
Yes, definitely. I think communities is the way to go for any emerging tech. And Women Who Code has our own, like I'm leading the currently the blockchain track for Women Who Code, wherein we do a lot of beginner friendly material. So Women Who Code is definitely a good space to be in, because you get to bridge between different technologies and Web3. You have touch of data science, Python, and front end while you are learning Web3. So it's a good space to be in. Other communities that I would recommend is the Third Block community, and one very beginner friendly and one with less biases is Meta School as well. So you can definitely looking at joining all of these and understand what aligns with you best.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Bhavya. I think that was a great answer about the Women Who Code community. So, folks, Kit, I think this answered your question. So, do we have any more questions here? Anyone else? Any more questions for Bhavya today? So, I think we could just give it a couple of minutes to see if we have folks coming up with more questions. Yes. Okay, great. So we have another question from Javia. The question is Coinbase is a resource that I started learning about Web 3.0. They have project based competitions to win different prizes. Can you recommend one that you used? So, is there a particular one that you used, Bhavya, and do you want to recommend that to folks here?
Sure. So, being a technologist, my easiest way was to go with the white papers, since they have very less biases involved. It's coming from senior researchers who are applying it and kind of studying it in depth. That's why I try to stay away from community-based competitions, because they are being done for a purpose. Understand that with Coinbase, the major purpose is to drive adoption for cryptocurrency. As someone who's trying to learn the basics of technologies, I wouldn't suggest to go for that, although it's good when you're practicing, right? So if
Mhm.
tomorrow a project like DYDX is trying to kind of promote a language called Cairo, so they would implement more projects in that. But when you are learning the very basics, I would suggest to go for neutral resources such as white papers.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. I think that was a great answer. So, moving on to our next question from Fatima. Can a full stack developer go with learning Web 3.0? How can it be different or same in a flow?
Definitely, Fatima. Yes, a full stack developer can very easily transition into Web3. It's essential you understand, do you want to continue with coding? And if yes, I would suggest to start learning Solidity language. You can easily go through a course that's openly available at Meta School, and you can learn about the basics of it, right? You can do the 10-day boot camp, which would get you familiar with the algorithms and the data structures in the space. And after that, start contributing to projects. Why I'm saying Solidity is because it's most open and there are a lot of contributors in the space. So even if you get stuck somewhere and if you have queries, there will be other developers to help you out.
Great, great, great. Thank you so much, Bhavya. I think that was a great answer. So, folks, do we have any more questions for Bhavya today? I think this was a great session from her, and she's also been giving us great answers. So, yeah, here's your time. If you have any more questions for her, please go ahead. Please post your questions on the comment section, and we'll be addressing them to her. I'm going to give it 2 more minutes to see if you have any more questions today. I'm not seeing any questions come in. Looks like Bhavya, I think you have already given them. Yeah, okay. So looks like folks are really happy. They want to thank you for the session, and so looks like they're all very happy with all the information today. So thank you, Bhavya. Thank you for presenting on emerging technologies, getting started with Web 3.0. This was an amazing talk, and we all learned so much. Folks, please feel free to share any feedback or comments in the chat section, and you can also share more questions in the chat section. I know meanwhile, folks, while folks are trying to come up with more questions, so Bhavya, do you really want to, would you like to share a time that you got started with emerging technologies, or would you like to speak about your journey, what kind of motivated you here, and things like that?
Sure, definitely. So I have been a digital transformation enthusiast, and it took me quite a while to understand that digital transformation does not necessarily mean using heavy tech. Digital
Mhm.
transformation can be something as simple as moving in onto Excel sheets, right? So for me, it took quite a while to understand that it's very essential we understand the core behind technologies and use it for some purpose and not just for the sake of it. Tomorrow, if I'm using a machine learning model, it's very essential to understand what problem does it solve for me. That's where emerging tech caught my interest, and I started researching around the space. I basically ended up in the blockchain domain by accident. So I was trying to solve a purpose for electrical health records, and that's when I encountered private and permission blockchain, and it solved a very big purpose of creating a standardized method in the healthcare industry. And that's how I started learning, and I took the way there were not enough resources and courses available back in the time. I started in 2018, so my only way to start was through white papers, and till date, I think that's the best resource you can go down to. But then again, I understand for some technologists it might be overwhelming with that kind of data and information, since white papers can have a lot of jargons involved sometimes as well. So it's okay if you find some influencer or streamer relatable, and it's fine if you don't relate with anyone and have a different opinion. The best way is to put your word out in the community so there is a discussion around it. That's how you explore emerging tech, according to me.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Bhavya. This was again a great answer. So, meanwhile, I have another question for you. Let me quickly check if we have any more questions from the participants. If not, okay. So, I have another question for you. So, do you want to talk about what are the possible career opportunities for folks who are getting started with emerging technologies, Web 3.0? Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, sure. So the opportunities in the Web3 space are endless, as you might be hearing. Like, There are a lot of opportunities that are arising in terms of developer opportunities, community managers, project managers, and product managers as well. The major alignment issue that is coming in is that there are a lot of people who want to enter the space but are struggling to because they think it's highly technical for them. So I would just say this is the best time to get hired in Web3 because all you need is not any preparation or interview questions. You basically need to have an opinion of your own because the industry currently is very open for you to learn and grow with them. So the basically the whole point is that if you are someone who can hold an opinion and back it with facts, you have already entered into the Web3 space. And Web3 is one technology that can only succeed with community support.
Thank you, Bhavya. I think that was a great input. Community support, yes, I think that's really very important factor everywhere. So we have another question from our participant. Do you have any interest in learning about quantum tech?
Yes, so I have had experience with quantum tech. I did start on it for one of the startups that I was advising, but I didn't find value in it as such because for the industries that I work in, I didn't find value there. That's why I didn't dive deeper into it because I believe in using technologies only as a tool and not as the end means.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you, Bhavya. Thank you so much. I mean, personally, I think this was a great session for, for beginners, a lot of new information. And I see folks are also really very satisfied. Looks like they don't have any more of questions. So, thank you, Bhavya. Thank you so much again. And thank you, participants. Thank you so much for being here and, really being there for Bhavya and encouraging her throughout the session. Thank you.
Thank you for hosting me today, Rashmi. It was great having you here. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.